You walk past their room, and there it is. The open books, the blank stare, the absence of the drive they used to have. It is easy to look at that sudden apathy and see laziness, to assume they simply no longer care about their future. But between the ages of 10 and 20, the human body undergoes a massive, natural transformation that operates entirely out of sight. Treating this sudden lack of focus as a biological reality, rather than intentional disobedience, is the first necessary step to closing the distance between you and your child. The adolescent brain is quite literally tearing down its childhood architecture and building an adult mind from scratch. During this intense remodeling phase, the mental energy required to process everyday routines is diverted, leaving their capacity for sustained focus temporarily diminished. This is why yelling, grounding, or forcing them to sit at the desk yields almost no return. You're fighting a neurological construction zone with strict enforcement. To bridge this developmental gap, psychology offers 5 specific strategies designed to work with their changing brain, rather than against it. The foundation of this approach relies on a framework identified by Diana Baumrind called authoritative parenting. It requires exact equilibrium between 2 forces, high emotional warmth and clear structural boundaries. Think of piloting a commercial flight. A good pilot speaks calmly to reassure anxious passengers during turbulence. That is warmth. But they strictly enforce the seatbelt sign for safety. That is structure. Establishing this exact balance tells teenagers they are supported, removing fear of failure while maintaining expectations. Psychologists identified that human motivation relies heavily on self-determination theory, specifically our fundamental need for autonomy. Adolescents are actively trying to carve out their own independent identities. When an adult dictates every detail of when and how they should study, the natural response is friction and pushback. Handing over the architecture of their routine changes the dynamic. Asking, "How do you want to organize your study schedule today?" gives them control over their time. When a teenager feels their personal preferences hold weight, the motivation to complete the work shifts from external pressure to their own internal drive. This internal drive can be reinforced using operant conditioning, swapping out the instinct to scold for a system of targeted, positive recognition. Acknowledging specific small efforts, like noticing they finish their math problems, triggers a physical release of dopamine in the teenager's brain. That dopamine acts as a biological reward, reinforcing neural pathways associated with studying, making the brain want to repeat the action unprompted. Cultivating this chemical reward loop builds a reliable, long-term habit. Fear of punishment only produces compliance for as long as you are watching. In the mid-20th century, psychoanalyst Erik Erikson mapped out the stages of psychosocial development. He categorized the teenage years as a period defined by identity versus role confusion. During this time, adolescents are entirely consumed by the search for who they are and exactly where they fit in the world. If homework is framed strictly as a mandatory chore required to pass the next exam, it feels disconnected from that search. It becomes tedious. The objective is to tie current academic work to future ambitions. Studying becomes a tool for acquiring knowledge in a field they actually care about. A student will engage with the material willingly once they can look in the mirror and see a hardworking individual preparing for a meaningful life. Before focus can take hold, we must account for the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, highly active during adolescence. This hyperactivity amplifies frustrations. A difficult assignment can trigger an emotional crisis that physically overrides logical thought in the prefrontal cortex. The countermeasure is emotional validation. Instead of dismissing their frustration, calmly listen and label the feeling. A simple verbal acknowledgement that a subject is genuinely difficult goes a long way. When a teenager feels heard without judgment, the amygdala's erratic firing slows down, the stress recedes, and the mental runway clears for true academic focus. Rebuilding a teenager's study habits will not happen in a single afternoon. It is a gradual process of establishing trust and consistency. Every adolescent operates on their own biological timeline, with unique capacities and individual interests. Relying on the exhausting cycle of forced obedience is a battle against their neurobiology. Understanding the psychology behind their actions offers a path that actually sustains itself. You can always force a child to sit at a desk, but inspiring a genuine, lifelong drive to learn requires patience, structure, and a deep, empathetic connection.